Sing now. You can sing along wherever you are. Thank you, Francis. It's quite funny being in my studio here, playing some music. And yeah, let's do another one. are
Thank
you?
you. Good, thank you. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
I'd like to announce the Honorable Eisenhower, Mkaka, Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. I don't Good morning, the guest of honor, Honorable Eisenhower Mkaka, MP, Malawi Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Jenny Gilruth, Scotland Minister of Europe and International Development, Mr. Abel Nkandawire, Acting Director for Europe for the Foreign Affairs of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Board of Directors of the Malawi-Scotland Partnership, members of Malawi-Scotland Partnership, the Chief Executive Officer for Scotland-Malawi Partnership, OBE David Hope Jones, the Chief Executive Officer for the Malawi-Scotland Partnership, Ms. Stella Masangala, all senior government officers attending the symposium for Malawi and Scotland, Strand leads in various ministries of the Malawi government, implementing partners for Scottish funded projects, all invited guests, employees of the Malawi-Scotland Partnership, and members of the press. Welcome to the 2021 virtual symposium. My name is Chinsisi Kazua, the project officer for the Malawi Climate Leaders Project, and I'll be your moderator this morning. Just a few housekeeping rules before we begin. We request that all mics be turned off, and if you have something to say, please raise your hand. We also request that cameras be turned off and on only for those who are speaking due to connection issues. We also request that we introduce ourselves in the chat box. And also for social media, please tag us in your tweets with the hashtag MaSP Symposium 2021. With no further ado, I would like to invite the Chief Executive Officer for the Malawi-Scotland Partnership, Ms. Stella Masangala, for the opening remarks.
Thank you so much, GCC, for your opening, for the for opening up. Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Honorable Israel Mkaka, MP, Honorable Minister of Honorable Minister of Europe and International Development, Ms. Gilruth, government officials, the PSs from Minister of Foreign Affairs and Economic Planning and Development, Board Chair of Malawian Scotland Partnership,
Hello.
Thank you, Madam.
Okay. Sorry for that. I will just begin again. Thank you. Let me recognize the presence of Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation for Malawi, Honorable Israel Mkaka, MP. Let me recognize presence of Minister of Europe and International Development, Ms. Gilruth. Let me recognize presence of the board chair of Malawi Scotland Partnership and all the board members. Let me recognize presence of the Chief Executive Officer for Scotland Malawi Partnership. Let me recognize presence of the government officials from Malawi as well as from Scotland, Ms. Joanna Keating and Ms. Boardman. Let me recognize presence of the all members of the Malawi Scotland Partnership present in here and members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for participating in this 2021 symposium. We gather in here to reflect, to review, to share with each other best practices. We need to pose question to ourselves. The steps that we have taken, are they in line with the set goals? Are we walking the journey, meeting the set objectives? This 2021 symposium is for us to debate, to start a debate that should go beyond this symposium, for us to ask our questions, to share best practices with our partners here and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to make mention of the principles that the Scottish Government has reviewed, and they have made an announcement. I'm aware that some members of the Malawi Scotland Partnership are aware of these principles and others are not aware. We'll be knocking on your doors to disseminate and also get your views on the principles. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable ministers, today we need to smile as we live in very difficult times. We have lost brothers and sisters, grandmothers, cousins due to the coronavirus. At this moment, we need also to reflect how we are going to mainstream the coronavirus in our day-to-day activities. Honorable Minister for Malawi, as well as for Europe and international cooperation, let me take this moment to ask all of us in this symposium to stand and observe 1 minute of silence in memory of those who have passed away due to the corona pandemic. Thank you, honorable ministers. Thank you. Thank you.
It's a song about the coronavirus. The slave trader is everywhere. It's building castles in the air. Coronavirus.
How long you run here? Let's see. We putting. Get it? You get what I'm saying? Nice. Oh, yeah. I did it. This is a very good video. Look at the video. Look at the video. Okay. Let's go video.
Very much for that. Thank you very much for that song from Michael Mountain. Thank you. That was a song from Michael Mountain, the Corona song. We've all had and experienced the effects of coronavirus, and that song couldn't have come at a more opportune time. But to move on with our program, I now invite the board chair, Dr. Phoya.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me this morning to pay special welcome to our own Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Operations, Honorable Mkaka MP, who has spared his time this morning from Parliament to come and be with us here to signify the importance that government puts on our partnership. May I also take this opportunity to welcome the Honorable Jane Gilruth, the Scottish Minister of Europe and International Cooperation, who is joining this meeting virtually, like all other people that are also participating virtually. As we are aware that every year, the Malawi-Scotland Partnership hosts a symposium, which is a forum where we share good experiences and progress that we are making in implementing projects that have been funded by the Scottish Government to support the development of Malawi, specifically addressing areas of challenge like health, climate change, democratic justice, just to mention a few. So the 2021 symposium is, for the time being, the video on. Sorry, I understand they needed the video on, but I thought we would do away with the video because it may reduce our network connectivity. However, I was saying that every year when we have a symposium, we have a theme that would lead our discussions. The theme is working together during global hardships. I need not expand on this symposium, a theme, why we have chosen it, but you know that as Malawi, we have experienced challenges because of the COVID, and it is not only Malawi, but globally everybody. And because of that, we have learned to do business differently. Otherwise, we would have been either at Bingu International Hotel, Conference Center, or we would have been in any of these elegant hotels in a big room so that all of us are together as a family. But because of the new ways of doing business, we've just decided to come here, a few of us, so that we can give a symbolic meaning to the symposium, while many of our partners are listening to us online. I just would like also to encourage all of us that despite the meeting in the challenging times, let us share the experiences that we have so that we should give information both to ourselves as a nation, but also to the Scottish Government that gives us resources to implement the projects. It is my hope that although we have been operating in challenging times, it is important that services continue. As a health worker myself, I know that we cannot close, let's say, for a hospital or a clinic. Things have to go on. So I'm hoping that those of us that received funding from the Scottish Government have not stopped implementing our activities, but we are implementing within the context of COVID prevention. So it is my singular honor this morning to welcome all of you to this function, to this symposium, where we are going to learn what we have done, and where we have not done well, let us reflect and come up with corrective or remedial measures so that as the year goes on, we are going to achieve our good results. Welcome once again, and welcome, Honorable Minister, to our function. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Chair, for those remarks. We now invite videos and success stories from our members who are implementing projects. The first one would be from RENAMA, which is Renew and Able Malawi, on the installation of solar electricity in schools. The second one will be on promoting equal access to education in Malawi project, implemented by the Synod of Livingstonia Education Department, and which provides support to disabled children. The third one would be from Nkhoma Synod on their cervical cancer project. And then the fourth one would be from Community Energy Project, would be from Community Energy Project. Thank you.
This is Mpedzo Primary School. It is located at Vumbwe in Mpedzo Village, TA Vumbwe. Despite the fact that Vumbwe is 24 kilometers away from Blantyre City, Mpedzo Village is far away from the main electricity grid, making it hard for the people in this community to have access to electricity. This lack of electricity has affected the people of this community, including pupils at Mpedzo Primary School. Education is one of the sustainable development goals whose attainment is usually being hampered by many factors, lack of electricity being one of them. Mpedzo Primary School has had no pupil that has been selected to a government secondary school. Head teacher for the school, Andrew Tichikuni, says lack of lights affected students' preparations for exam.
Most of the learners in class were not performing well because the parents were complaining that they don't have light to give to their learners so that it will be studying at their homes. So that's one of the challenges we had before receiving this solar system.
Renew and Able Malawi, RENAMA, a local NGO in Malawi and a member of Malawi-Scotland Partnership, received support from Scottish Government through International Resources and Recycling Institute, implemented a project of Sukulu Owala with an aim of improving education sector by providing solar power electricity in some schools of Choro district. RENAMA installed solar panels in 5 schools, Mpedzo being one of them. This has not only helped the learners but the community as well. The project has run for 18 months only, and Mpedzo Primary School has managed to send 3 pupils to different government secondary schools.
This program was assisted so much because the results that have come out of this program, it seems that there is somehow improvement. We have made to produce a learner who has gone to Nzuzo Government Secondary School, which is not very simple. Even our pair said, you have done a good job, the whole zone in Sawan. And we have improved the selection because last year we have just produced one who was going to Cholo Secondary School. But for now, we have tried to produce at least 4 borders and 12 to community secondary schools. That means in total, we have made 14.
Appreciating the project, some of the pupils said since they require intensive training to prepare for primary school leaving certificate exams, the solar power is assisting them to prepare well.
Sola imene ikidwa pachikulu pano authenza kwambiri chifukwa chokuti makomo zimakhala zovuta kuti tochi makhaposo limodzi ndiye masola amene anabwera zimakhala zokhweka funa kuti mwayinena okawerenga.
Narrating how the electricity is assisting people in the community, Baba Shopman Yohane Kangumba said the money they are generating from this business is also assisting the school in buying food items for camping pupils of Standard 8 when they are preparing for their exams.
Konoko sola ikutipindulira kuti kuchokera mu nthawi imene sola inabwera konoko anakhala kumaphunzira kali mwakuphunzira kunabwera nziro zokisa Baba Shop cholinga kuti tizipeza kwa ndalama izithandizikira kugwiritsa ntchito kwa ana amene tikukhala panopo kuzofoka zina zimene zingamapezeke.
RENAMA says the aim is to improve student pass rate and selection rate into secondary schools, among other things.
We have seen great improvements in the pass rate at the just ended primary school leaving certificate exams, as well as selection rate. One of the schools, Mpedzo Primary School, we have seen in the past years, they only have 1 student being selected to a conventional district secondary school. We have seen the improvement from 1 person, now they had 5 students being selected to district schools. Some were selected to Choro, others to Richens. And for the first time, they had a selection to a national secondary school. So it's been great, and this has been the case with all the schools that the project is being implemented.
The communities, parents, village heads, and school authorities have all been engaged, trained, and included in the project implementation process to ensure sustainability when the project time elapses.
Ngati nthawi imene tinandira magetsi alina mawa timadzipereka nthawi ikati mayeso akuyandikira ngati mwezi wa mawawu afuna kulemba mwezi ngati mwezi wa mawa mwezi uno timadzipereka timadzagona pa sikulu pompano mogwirizana ndi aphunzitsi komanso ndi eni ake alinama kukhalira limodzi pakana tikhale limodzi pakana mwezi uja uthe basi pakana nthawi yolemba mayeso.
Other schools who have benefited from the project have opened up their classes to all interested students to come and do homework and study at night. So far, students from Standard 5 and the other senior classes who stay close to the school are using the lights to read and do homework up to 9 p.m. in the evening. Interestingly, some students from nearby secondary schools are beneficiaries as they come and study at the school as well. RENAMA has installed solar PV system in the head teacher's office and lights in 5 classrooms at each of the 6 primary schools, namely Mpedzu, Chamasowa, Vumbwe Model, Gombwa, Mtundama, and Kwanjana Primary School in TA Vumbwe.
Thank you very much. That was Renew and Able Malawi. I also please feel free to write your comments and your questions in the chat box. These will be answered later on after all of the presentations. Next on the list is the Promoting Equal Access to Education in Malawi project from the Livingstonia Synod.
Universal access to education is the ability of all people to have equal opportunity in education, regardless of their social class, race, gender, sexuality, ethnic background, or physical and mental disabilities. Praise be to Scottish Government for supporting, promoting equal access to education Malawi project PETAMA under CCAP Livingstonia Synod that has seen students with different disabilities breathing a sigh of relief. According to Thomas Nkhoma, the project's manager, the 4-year project, which commenced in 2018, ensures that parents and teachers are trained to take a leading role in promoting equal access to education.
In terms of exactly what we do, we are into building the capacity of the community members, school governance structures, teachers and the children themselves, particularly those with disabilities, that they have equal access to education like everyone else. So we provide trainings to teachers to have the skills and the community leaders to coordinate themselves in helping children getting to school, providing by roles to make sure that children are protected, as well as mobilize the parents themselves to proactively find solutions to the challenges facing their children. So these are specific key areas that we are doing.
Disability is not inability. Through the project, support groups have answered a noble call to promote education for all in their respective areas. This is Ruano Parents Teacher Support Group in Karonga, the northern border district of Malawi. They have been trained through Piatama project to think outside the box and include students' disabilities in all their developments. Good news, the group has been supported both mentally and economically. They all have rice farms for business, and they also have a village bank borrowing each other money on monthly basis.
1,000. Suteni, Wakaira, 1,000.
Abraham Kankwanda is a senior member of the group, and he explains how the group operates.
Gulu limeneli limapanga zinthu zambiri zomwe zimathandiza ana sukulu a inclusive. Tili ndi gulu la masheya nkati mwa gulu limeneli limene timasonkha ndrama la sabata ina iliyonse, ndrama ing'ono kwambiri imayendera 500 ndiye ndrama izo tikasonkha timagwirisira ntchito zosiyanasiyana, ntchito zina zothandizira ana a sukulu, kugulira makope ngati nthawi ino ya covid tinagulirako mamaski, sopo, zolembera, komanso tinamanga ma steps pa sukulu kuti ngati ana aulumali azithandizidwa nawo.
Walking the talk, the group has managed to make the school disability friendly in both policies and infrastructure. Edgar Jabu, primary education advisor for Mwini Tete Zone, where over 4 students with physical challenges have been selected to different secondary schools in the district, explains the impact of the project in education sector.
Of course, we have some learners who have benefited from this project. Like here at Mwentete, we had one who uses a wheelchair, and he was learning here at Mwentete. Last year, he was selected to go to Chirumba Central School, and 3 others also who had the other disabilities. As we are talking now, they are at the Chirumba Central School. This project is really assisting that kind of learners.
But in the wake of the novel coronavirus, what has been the progress of the project?
With disabilities in schools. However, there are also some key challenges that we have encountered. One key is related to children with the hearing loss. It's now gazetted that everyone has to wear masks. At the same time, we have children who have difficulties to hear and they depend upon lip reading. And when one covers the mouth with masks, it becomes difficult for them to understand what the teacher is teaching.
Education is a key to success, so they say. That is the reason education for all is of paramount importance in every country living the dream of United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which among others calls for equal access to education. Thanks to Scottish Government for the lives are being changed. The future is being redefined for the better.
Thank you very much. That was promoting equal access to education in Malawi project from the Synod of Livingstonia Education Department. I had to say it right this time after rushing through it the first time around. The next project coming up is the Cervical Cancer Project from the Nkhoma Synod. Thank you.
Cancer is the second leading cause of death around the world. The human papilloma virus is a sexually transmitted virus. It is known to cause cancers in both men and women, but most notably as the primary cause of cervical cancer in women all over the globe. With funding from Scotland, the Malawi Scotland Cervical Cancer Screening Project, MaSCOT, embarked on a cancer screening project that has been running for 3 years. Beatrice Kabota, a senior nurse at Nkhoma Mission Hospital, is a project coordinator for Malawi Scotland Cervical Cancer Screening Project, MaSCOT.
My name is Beatrice Kabota. I'm a project coordinator for Malawi Scotland Cervical Cancer Screening Project. In short, we call it MaSCOT. And our project is mainly doing cervical cancer screening in women, and we focus more of the rural areas because these are the areas which the government have not reached, and we are trying to reach out to more women. So our project mainly focus on introducing cervical cancer screening in this rural area, and at the same time to do also capacity building. On capacity building, we make sure that we train providers in the nearby clinics so that they are able to reach out to women. And also we focus on mentorship. So mentorship, once you train these women, these providers, they are supposed to be equipped so that they can provide quality care to these women. And also we focus on mentorship because sometimes once you train these providers, they are unable to do more screening or to do screening as required because they still need to be mentored so that they have their skills, they reach at the proficiency level. And with that, they are able to be able to detect what we are using hub and spokes model. So in North we have 2 hubs, and in here at the center we have also 2 hubs, while in South region we have 3 hubs. So in all those areas we are doing what I have just said. I can say the project has progressed well during the pandemic because in year 3 is where we have this pandemic. So from April last year to September, we have managed to screen more than 11,000 women. Well, in the same year, our target was to screen 12,800 women. That means when we are finalizing in March this month, we are going to have more than what we projected to screen. But despite that, we know that there are some other activities which we didn't manage to do. But in terms of screening, we have managed to do despite having COVID. Method which we have used to reach out to more women, and we have done it differently, is to, once we have women in our clinic, we should not keep them quite a long time. And also we have been teaching them about COVID-19, which was not the case before COVID. And also in other areas where women now they are afraid to come to the clinic, we are able to do outreach clinic so that we are able to reach to them while we are screening. Also we are teaching them about this COVID-19. So this outreach we are really intensified so that we are able to reach to these women.
At Nkhoma Mission Hospital, we have 2 treatment and examination rooms. In each room, there's similar apparatus or equipment. For examination, women lie on this bed. A colposcopy machine, that is a surgical operating microscope, fitted with light at the end, is used. In some instances, with the consent of the patient, a camera is used for professional development courses, as well as a projector is fitted or a screen for the patient to appreciate how they can take care of themselves better. Tables where the equipments are stored or kept is placed next to the bed. For treatment, the battery-powered thermobrazil machine is used outdoors on retreat. and an electric power thermobrazil machine is used indoors or right at the hospital. Treatment only takes place up to 30 seconds, but patients are requested to wait for a year for post-treatment inspection at the hospitals. Ida Mkaka is one of the beneficiaries of the MaSP project. Here's what she had to say. My name is Ida Mbuka. I'm from Danger Village along Salima Road. Our nearest clinic is Jankungu and Nchezi, but we only get to visit Nkhoma Hospital for major illnesses. I first learned about cervical cancer through the radios, but only developed interest in the project when I first visited Nkhoma Mission Hospital. I received adequate sensitization as well as counseling on cervical cancer. I was negligent in the first place to go for testing as I considered cervical cancer a myth. But after knowing my status, I received adequate treatment. And since then, my health has been restored and I'm a much more productive woman in my community.
Thank you for that, Nkhoma Hospital. Next is the Sun Oven project implemented by Community Energy in partnership with COMSIP.
Malawi-Scotland Partnership is a network organization that exists to coordinate the links that are there between Malawi and Scotland. We work with churches, schools, individuals that receive funding from Scottish Government. On 26th February 2021, we visited Kasungu, Changombe Cooperative, where Community Energy Malawi is implementing a sun oven project. Here is Mr. Chawezi Gondwe, a representative of the organization, with a brief summary.
Yeah, so my name is Chawezi Gondwe. I work for Community Energy Malawi. Community Energy Malawi is a local organization with a mission to assist rural communities to meet their energy needs sustainably. So today we are here in Kasungu at Changombe COMSIP Cooperative in the area of Traditional Authority Kawamba, where we are at the moment implementing a project. It's called the Sun Ovens Project, and this project is being implemented with funding from the Scottish Government through the Climate Justice Innovation Fund. Just a brief background of the project. Changombe COMSIP Cooperative has been operating under COMSIP, and they were previously using wood-fired ovens. But with this project, we are piloting a new technology, which is called a villager sun oven. So through the villager sun oven, these people are able to bake. Actually, it's a bakery project. They're able to bake different products using the sun. And when there is no enough sun, they're able to bake using gas. Well, progress has been, we've made progress, but of course it hasn't been as we expected. As you know that the pandemic has affected all sectors of development, but still we've been able to get on with business. The COP members are able to beg, but of course we are following different preventive measures to make sure that there's progress, but also people are protected in the process.
Martha Perry is one of the beneficiaries of the Sun Oven project, and she highlights the impact of the project and how they have been progressing during the pandemic. My name is Martha Perry, a representative and beneficiary of the Changombe cooperative here in Kasungu. Here at Changombe, we have a bakery and we make bread and scones twice a week. As you can see, we are now making bread which will be sold at the trading center later in the afternoon. At first, we used to bake our bread in the ovens that required firewood, but with the coming in of the sun oven, we have been able to conserve the environment, as now we are required to use the sun and gas for baking. Despite the pandemic, our livelihoods have since improved as a community. We are now able to sell the bread and scones to other communities. We would therefore like to appreciate Community Energy Malawi, Scottish Government and COMSIP for giving us the solar oven. Chawezi Gondwe further clarifies how best they have been progressing despite the pandemic.
Initially, the COP members were baking in groups of 9 every day, but since the pandemic came in, we decided to at least reduce the numbers of the people coming through to the COP. So maybe per day, only 4 people are coming through to bake, just to ensure that there is physical distance. As well as, I think for us as implementers, we've had to limit the number of meetings that we hold with the people, and we've also tried to provide all the protective gears, talking of the masks as well as sanitizers, just to make sure that the people are protected.
Thank you very much for that community energy. And now I would like to invite questions from participants. Feel free to raise your hands and I'll point you out. Are there any questions from the participants? Or any pressing comments? I see a hand from Paul Sezi, and then I also see another one from Lucky Crown Bewe. So let's first go with Paul Sezi and then Lucky Bewe. And while we're taking those questions, can we have the representatives from the projects on standby and ready to answer the questions? The representative from Nkhoma Hospital and the Cervical Cancer Project is Beatrice Kabuta, and Chawezi Gondwe from the Sun Oven Project, and Thomas Nkonjera from the Livingstonia Synod Education Department.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks very much for the opportunity that I've had to attend this symposium. It's actually very, very educative. Mine is not more of a question, but I think it's a comment on the energy project that is actually happening. I'm glad to say that this is a wonderful project. My background is that of a teacher, and really we have lots of problems, especially for those who are actually going to school in different areas in Mali, especially the rural learners. So I'm very, very excited and happy that people are actually innovating and doing these kind of projects in schools, especially with the electrification initiatives. I would want to encourage the organization to keep it up, and I also want to find out if at all they are also doing the same in other districts other than Cholo. I know projects usually are sort of confined to a specific catchment area. And I would want to find out if at all they have actually expanded to other areas so far, or if they have plans to scale up to other districts as well as areas, especially in the rural areas. At the same time, I would also want to find out from MaSP if at all they have got plans to make this as one of the core areas, where, especially in terms of making the rural learners access electricity, because these days it goes without saying that power, energy, or electricity is the core of everything else. You can't actually have food in the house if you haven't gone to the maybe maize mill to grind your flour, and that would need electricity. So what plans do we have to sort of help rural communities have a kind of a massive usage of solar power? In my case, I would believe solar energy is the way to go, other than the water or hydro energy that we kind of rely upon much in Malawi. I would want maybe a situation whereby we are focusing more on energy power, because we have the sun in Malawi, and with the climate change issues coming up, we have a lot of sun which we can as well utilize in such kind of initiatives in education and other different areas, including agriculture itself. So what plans do we have to sort of scale up these initiatives to other areas? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Can we have representatives from the projects respond to the questions, please?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for the question, Paul. So I'm from Renew and Enable Malawi, RENAMA, and the question on where else the project is being implemented. So far the project is being implemented in 2 districts, that's Cholo and Palombe. You've probably heard of Zenje Primary School, which has been the best performing primary school in Malawi. So that's where we started off the project. And then it was the success of that project in Zenje that led to the School Year One extending to Cholo district. So for now it's those 2 districts, but we're hoping that the success of the project in Cholo as well will help us to source funds to implement it, to scale it up in other districts. But for now it's those 2 districts, Palombe and Cholo. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eve. Can I have the CEO, Ms. Stella Masangala, to respond to the question posed to us?
Thank you so much for the question, and also for the comments that you've raised, Mr. Paul. Indeed, it is the wish of the network, Malawi Scotland Partnership, to scale up where we have seen that we have best practices. So once we see that it's working, of course we know it's working, our partners, members of the network, should be able to document the best practices, share as much as possible, and we should be able to scale up given the resources. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next, can I have Lucky Mbewe.
Thank you so much, moderator. Good morning. My name is Lucky Mbewe from Center for Youth Empowerment and Civic Education. I already put across a question to Nkhoma Synod regarding the powerful game changer project on cervical cancer screening, especially when we look at issues of addressing access to quality SRHR services among all people, especially women and young girls. So I wanted to understand to what extent has this initiative reached out to adolescent girls, teen mothers, considering that these are groupings that are largely also sidelined with regards to such kind of services because of attitudes or lack of information regarding routine checkups for cervical cancer interventions. Secondly, to our colleagues in, is it in Kasungu, about the project on, is it solar, not solar, project that's on renewable energy. I wanted to find out, when I was watching that video on the cooperatives, I noted that there was a missing subject character, which are young people. Malawi is known to be a youthful nation, and in most instances, young people do hardly find chances to participate in such economic empowerment initiatives. But given that they're given such kind of opportunities, the youth can be a game changer because of the energy that they have, the passion, and also the willingness. Would you share what is your focus on meaningful youth participation to ensure that the young people, the youth, are also active participants in driving the agenda, be it the Malawi Growth and Development Strategy 3, Agenda 2030, and of course, the Agenda 2060, and all other development processes. Where is the space for the youth? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lucky Mbewe. Can we have representatives from, can we have Beatrice and Chawananga come and respond to the comments and questions raised? And just a reminder to be time conscious, so please keep the responses as brief as possible and very straight to the point. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is Beatrice. I want to respond for the first question about empowering the teens and young mothers concerning cervical cancer. I can say our project mainly focused on secondary prevention, which is we are trying to treat women who have precancer lesion. And with this, we do screen even the young mothers who usually attend in our clinics. So no woman is sent back when she is accessing the service. So even those who are younger, if they access service, we do provide. The only challenge with our project is screening facilities, they do access the cervical cancer screening. But in terms of those who are not sexually active, as the country, they have rolled out HPV vaccine, which our young girls now, they will be covered in terms of primary prevention. So in terms of screening, they are offering to all women. And when we are sensitizing that all who are sexually active should come forth for the screening. Thank you.
Hello, this is Chawezi from Community Energy Malawi to answer a question by Mr. Mbewe. The question was mainly asking why, what we see the youths, how we perceive the youths in our project. So first of all, we at Community Energy Malawi, we recognize that the youth are very important in ensuring that there is meaningful development for our country. And as such, in these projects that we are working at the moment, we are working with the youth as well. These corps have, I would say, about 80% membership of women. They have women as the main, they take the biggest percentage of membership. And then we do have the youth as well. I think about 40% of them are the youths, and we do work with them in this project. Just to add, I think in all other projects that we're working with, I think the biggest one being the 80 kilowatts mini grid in Chinji. We have done several capacity building initiatives that we've taken the youth on board. So we have trained them to be technicians. Some of them, they are even managing the mini grid. So just to emphasize, I think Community Energy Malawi sees the youth as a very important, as well as integral in the development of our nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. We'll just take 2 more questions, I think, looking at the time. And may we also request that the representatives answering the questions, if you don't mind, would you please reply, would you please also put the answers in the chat box for maybe people who had breakages during your responses. Next, can I have Dizowere and Sisha with the question or comment? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Once again, my name is Dizowere Msisa from Revolution Human Aid and Transparency Initiative, Rehab Initiative. Actually, I just want to ask livingstonia synod. I think I might have missed some of the content of the presentation from the video. I understand that the role of the local committee members is very crucial in rural community. How do now those communities I just saw that there's 4 of them are in VSLs and the like. How do the working agreement like? Could they sign an agreement so like that when the law officer actors do not fulfill their work, then they will withdraw, the will withdraws or just discipline them. I just wanted to just the strategy they just used to make that the both sides do their work according to what they just agreed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dizowere. Unfortunately, you were breaking a lot. I'm sure most of your question, Thomas must have gotten it. I'll request you to write your question in the chat box for him to see. As we're waiting for that, we'll take our last question from Dr. Phoya, and I'll request George, Daisy, Divine to just write your comments or questions in the chat box, and we'll take note of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. I have a few questions and comments, but I'll try to be as short as possible. For the RENAMA project that is providing solar energy to the primary school in Kyolo, I noticed that the school has also decided to piggyback an IGA by introducing a barber shop, where I heard that we're raising funds to support the school. I wanted to check whether in the IGA they have considered putting up a maize mill. I thought a maize mill would make more money than the barber shop, being that this is a rural area. So I don't know whether that can be considered, but it's a good project. On the equal access to education, I noticed that we have managed to support students that have now been selected to go to Chirumba Secondary School. Now I wanted to know whether at Chirumba, we have made sure that the students are not suffering. Is Chirumba a disability-friendly school? That's my question. So that the students are not now retrogressing from the improvements that were done in their primary schools in Karonga North. For cervical cancer project, this has always been a favorite project for me, being a health worker. But I just wanted to know whether Beatrice can explain how the hub system works. You've said there are 2 hubs up north, 2 in the center, 3 in the south. How does it work? And I'm also glad to notice that despite the COVID, many women are still coming for cervical screening and treatment. I just wanted to know whether you are having any challenges when you go for outreach in terms of powering the thermocoagulation machine. Do you have any challenges in powering it? Lastly, the community energy project. This is also a good project that is empowering the women. I noticed that when the solar is not working, we are using gas. I wanted to understand whether this is industrial or biogas, because this is another opportunity to teach the women how to make biogas so that they don't spend their money buying industrial gas to power their oven. Thank you. Those are the few questions that I had.
Thank you so much for the comments and questions, Dr. Phoya. I will ask Beatrice, Chawezi, and Divine to please respond in the chat box because of the time. Please respond to those in the chat box. And Thomas, she had a question for you as well. Please respond in the chat box. We'll take note of them as well, and we'll tell her your responses. Next, I'd like to invite Dr. Masangala, who is the Strand lead for the Sustainable Economic Development, and for their comments. Sorry, that should be Economic Planning and Development. Thank you.
Madam Event Moderator, should I start?
Yes, please start.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Eisenhower Mkaka, MP and guest of honor, the Malawi Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, the Honorable Jenny Gilruth, Scottish Minister of Europe and International Development, the Board Chair of the Malawi-Scotland Partnership Board, Dr. Phoya, and members of the Board of Directors of the Malawi-Scotland Partnership, the Chief Executive Officer for the Malawi-Scotland Partnership, and all distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. A very good morning to you all. It is such an honor and a privilege for me to make a few remarks as the Strand lead of the Sustainable Economic Development Group. It gives me great honor just to recognize the fact that Malawi and Scotland have a relationship that dates back over 160 years. And that relationship has been rooted on the basis of friendship and not just on aid, and has even achieved greater gains for the people of both nations throughout the period that we are looking at. So it is such a pleasure for me to address this gathering this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, we have heard about the funding that the Scottish Government has given to Malawi to the tune of £11 million, which was directed to a number of organizations, 11 in total, to cover different activities for the period of 2018 to 2023. So some of those stakeholders have presented progress on their interventions this morning, and we have been thoroughly impressed. So I just wanted to say a thing or two about the strand that we lead. It is one of the mandates of the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development to monitor and to evaluate development projects that are being implemented across the country by development partners, and that would include the Scottish Government's projects in Malawi. As part of the government's commitment in appreciating the support from the Scottish Government, as well as assuming ownership of the projects and their gains, the ministry has a program for monitoring the different projects that are being implemented under this partnership. And when we monitor these projects, really there are four things that we are trying to do. First is to understand the impact these projects are having on the targeted communities and the beneficiaries and the country's economy as a whole. Second, we want to promote transparency and accountability in implementing the project activities. Third, we want to assist in reducing the duplication of effort by grant holders and government. And then we also want to raise awareness of the Malawi-Scotland Partnership funded projects themselves. So we normally conduct these M&E activities using a detailed checklist, and then the final report is submitted to the Malawi-Scotland Partnership Secretariat for onward submission to the financiers and other stakeholders. As we speak to date, we have done 3 such reports for 2018, 19, and 20, and we are in the preparatory stages for doing this year's M&E report. So in summary, this is what we have found. On the good side, the M&E exercise has revealed that these projects have made good progress in meeting their set sectoral objectives, and they have also made good progress in terms of alignment with national policies in terms of the medium and long-term development policies. So most of these have been anchored and aligned to the MGDS3, which is still ruling and under revision. And most of these are also consistent with Agenda 2030, dealing with the Sustainable Development Goals. So we are well pleased that there is alignment with this Malawi-Scotland partnership with the local policies and the medium and long-term policies that the government has. We have also noticed that there is a challenge or two, especially in the lack of coordination between the Secretariat sometimes and the implementing partners of the project, especially when we want to do the M&E visits. We have also seen a challenge in terms of the periodicity of the M&E, especially when these were supposed to be done twice a year, but due to limited resources, they are done once a year. And we have a problem in terms of delays in submission of quarterly reports as expected by implementers. Let me conclude by making this point. As most of you know, Malawi just adopted a new vision, which is the Malawi 2063. And this is going to guide the programs that the government is going to implement for the next 43 years. Therefore, it is our hope in the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development that the projects in the Malawi-Scotland partnership will align themselves to the new vision as well. And I think it is also important for me to mention that even as I speak, the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development with the National Planning Commission, we are developing a 10-year plan to actualize the vision for the first 10 years. So this will be a program between now and 2030. And out of that, we're also going to have a 5-year program of quick wins. It is our expectation, therefore, that the projects being funded by the Malawi-Scotland partnership would then be aligned with both the 5-year plan and the 10-year plan to the extent that they are also aligned to the Malawi 2063. At that point, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for listening to me, and I want to thank the Scottish government for the support that it renders to the government of Malawi. Thank you everyone for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard from the EPND on issues of monitoring and evaluation. I think we have taken heed of what he has said. Let's go back to our business and look at our plans and see whether we are aligned or not. And let's address what he has mentioned. At this juncture, it is my singular honor to invite our guest of honor, the Honorable Minister Mkaka MP, to address the gathering. Honorable Minister, you have the floor.
The Honourable Minister Jenny Gilruth, Scottish Minister of Europe and International Development, Board of the Chairperson of the Board, Dr. Phoya, and all the board members here present, members of the Malawi Scotland Partnership, the Chief Executive Officer of the Malawi Scotland Partnership, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, let me take this opportunity to reiterate the unique relationship that Malawi and Scotland have had for over 150 years. This relationship started with the arrival of Dr. David Livingstone and over to Strand. Our meeting today is a testimony of this wonderful relationship that exists between the government and the peoples of Malawi and Scotland. This relationship is unique in the sense that it is rooted in friendship and mutual partnership. And before I proceed further, allow me to welcome Honourable Jenny Gilruth, Scotland Minister of Europe and International Development. I'm delighted to meet with you once again, Honourable Minister, after our fruitful meeting last year in December. I hope we will be able to meet physically before the 26th session of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change COP26 in Glasgow. Your presence at this symposium is a manifestation of the great value which the Scottish Government places on its relationship with Malawi. Scotland is a great partner to Malawi and is supporting us in various sectors of our society. Scottish support is extended to the areas of education, health, climate change, water and sanitation, gender and civic governance, amongst others. When we called for international support towards the fight against COVID-19 pandemic, Scotland swiftly responded to our call with various materials, including a donation of £650,000 through UNICEF. As already mentioned by the board chair, our Scottish brothers and sisters have also assisted us with the provision of oxygen cylinders and other related materials which have been donated to various hospitals in the country. The Scottish support has greatly assisted Malawi in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, and so far the positivity rate has significantly gone down from around 30% to less than 10%. We are therefore confident that with the continued support of our partners like Scotland, we will defeat this enemy and come out even much stronger. Honourable Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this year's symposium, quote, working together during global hardships, sharing experiences in the pandemic, unquote, is an illustration of the close partnership which the Scottish Government and its people have shown to Malawi during this period. Scotland is working with us in the battle against COVID-19 as well as the fight against poverty and underdevelopment. Various projects that are being implemented in Malawi with support from the Scottish Government to the tune of £11 million, which is about 11 billion Malawi kwacha. That was directed towards 11 civil society organizations since period. This was the improvement of the well-being of Malawians and the progress towards the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals at global level and Malawi Vision 2063. On behalf of the government support that the Scottish Government, various civic organizations, and the people of Scotland give to Malawi. Honorable Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we gather today to celebrate and map the way forward of various interventions being implemented through the projects alluded to above. Clearly, progress has been registered in the implementation as evidenced by the documentaries and presentations made this morning. However, we still have a lot of ground to cover if we are to achieve Sustainable Development Goals and Malawi Vision 2063. As we are reviewing the implementation of these projects, there is need to put much focus on strengthening the monitoring mechanisms in order to achieve best results and scale up on best practices. We need to ensure that our implementing agencies of various projects are putting the resources to good use. These resources are meant to assist the people of Malawi and are not for personal gains. I wish to therefore plead that every tambala is used for its intended purpose. The government will not tolerate any mediocrity or pilferage in the implementation of donor-funded projects, including the ones by the Scottish Government. We must set high standards in the way we execute our projects to demonstrate that Malawi is indeed the warm heart of Africa. On our part as government, we will ensure that proper measures are put in place for smooth execution of the project. As I conclude, let me once again thank you, Honourable Minister, for the continued support provided to Malawi by the Scottish Government and for sparing your time to grace this event. I also wish to invite you, Honourable Minister, to visit Malawi, the positive impact that the Scottish support is having on the Malawi people. And of course, have a taste of the jambo fish and experience the warmth of Malawians. I wish the government and the people of Scotland all the best as you prepare to host the COP26 in November this year. We are looking forward to a successful session. Let me also commend the Malawi-Scotland Partnership for the good work you are doing in coordinating the Scottish-funded projects in Malawi. Be assured of continued government support. I thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. It is now my pleasure to invite the Scottish Minister to talk to us. Honourable Jean Gilruth, you have the floor.
Thank you, Anne, and Muli Bwanji to everyone. Firstly, Honourable Eisenhower Mkaka, Minister of Foreign Affairs, I'd like to thank you for your really insightful keynote address. I look forward to continuing our discussions on the shape of the Scottish Government's funded programme and of the Global Goals Partnership Agreement between our two governments. And as you say, I hope that we'll be able to meet in person in the not too distant future. I'd also like to thank the Malawi-Scotland Partnership for the introduction and for giving me the opportunity to be with you all today. I'm grateful that technology has allowed me to attend the event virtually this year. It's a really good example of how we've adapted our ways of working over the past events of the last year. And reflecting on today's theme of working together during global hardships, sharing experiences in the pandemic, internationalism and international solidarity has arguably never been more important than it is now. It's clear that in the last year, there's been an extremely difficult time for all of us. And the pandemic is indeed an unprecedented global crisis, leaving no country or people unaffected. That's why last year I decided that the pandemic necessitated us to consider, with a view to then refreshing, our approach to international development, to ensure that we focus our work on areas Sorry, can I just check? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
We had lost you for a bit, but you're back now.
Okay, yes. That's great, thank you. So last year, I decided that the pandemic necessitated us to consider, with a view to refreshing our approach to international development, to ensure we refocused our work on areas where we could make the biggest contribution and difference in Malawi and our other partner countries against this new reality of COVID-19. And having announced the outcomes of the review to the Scottish Parliament and written to advise the Honourable Minister just last week, I'd therefore like to take this chance today to share in person with you the results of the review. But before I do, I'd like to start off by taking a moment to reflect on the history of the relationship between Malawi and Scotland. We have a remarkable shared history, as the Minister mentioned, stretching back over 150 years. And many of you will know this history better than I do, but it is important to recognise that our shared history is one that's been complex, with both positive and at times negative aspects. In understanding our history, Dr. David Livingstone's birth is, of course, a starting point for many of the story of Scotland's relationship with Malawi. But Livingstone was, of course, followed by other Scottish missionaries and also industrialists such as the Moir brothers from Glasgow, who established the African Lakes Corporation. And both Livingstone and the Moir brothers were active in the anti-slavery activity, with the Moirs having engaged in armed conflict against the slave trade in Karuga from 1887 to 1889, together with leading extensive alternative commercial activity, establishing trading stations and stores across Malawi. However, it's important that we recognise that Scottish engagement in Malawi was not always for the benefit of Malawians, and that it took place in an age of imperialism. As you may know, John Tulembwe's uprising in 1915 was instigated in particular by the contemptuous behaviour of Alexander Livingston Bruce, David Livingstone's grandson. Nevertheless, in later years, the Church of Scotland played a part in initially unsuccessful opposition to Malawi's incorporation in the Central African Federation, dominated as it then was by Rhodesia. Opposition to federation, of course, fueled the independence movement, which ultimately secured the disbandment of the federation. And upon Malawi's independence, Colin Cameron, a Scot living and working in Malawi, was honoured to become Malawi's Minister for Works in its first government. And of course, the Scottish Government was honoured to work the work of Colin and Alison Cameron through the Girls Scholarship Programme established through the Mamie Martin Foundation with the group of Alison girls who I know is with us today. This shared history and heritage between our two countries is important because it's created a large number of connections, enduring friendships, contacts and partnerships. It shaped, of course, the nature of the 2005 Scotland-Malawi Cooperation Agreement between our two governments and the more recent updated Global Goals Partnership Agreement signed in 2018. It's also the backdrop to both the Malawi-Scotland Partnership and its sister organisation in Scotland. This history between our two countries is therefore something that I've reflected on whilst undertaking the review of our approach to international development. In addition to responding to the pandemic, the demand for change by the Black Lives Matter movement has raised serious questions about historical, structural, social, economic and racial inequalities. And that global movement has allowed us to open up conversations on what those mean within international development. In particular, how we play our part in tackling systemic racism and inequality and shifting power to partner countries, a commitment to internationalism which means continuing to evolve in our work as we respond to international challenge and movements. In doing this and looking back at our complex history, I believe it's important we do recognise the historic power imbalances between Scotland and Malawi and the enduring inequalities stemming from them. At the start of the review process, I said in my statement to the Scottish Parliament that if we are serious about amplifying voices from the Global South and about partner-led development, and if we're going to build a programme sustainability against the threat of COVID-19, then we need to be serious about change. I hope the outcomes of the review that I outlined last week reflect that. To summarise, these changes include supporting our intent to contribute to our partner countries' efforts to build back fairer and stronger. We will restructure our current funding streams to focus on sustainable recovery and institutional resilience within the key priority areas. Secondly, we're going to establish a Global South programme panel, which will look at a panel of experts by experience who principally work and reside in the Global South, along with representatives of our partner countries' diaspora who reside here in Scotland. We're also going to look at updating our funding criteria, adjusting that criteria to enable more partner country-based organisations to apply directly for funding by removing the current requirement that the Scottish Government international development funding only ever be accessed via a Scottish-based organisation. Also, I set out last week that I'm clear that this COVID-19 review of our approach to international development is a start point rather than an end point to changing our process. Our programme will therefore progressively align with the new principles over the coming months and years, and with programme themes and design decisions reflecting them and the outcome of the review as we future-proof our programme in relation to the pandemic and, of course, climate change. We'll also continue to provide support to strengthening key areas underpinning our programme, like safeguarding, and this continuing alignment and adjustment of our programme will take place incrementally as an ongoing process of improvement and change, and will include a focus on the balance of spend between Scotland and our partner countries and amongst our partner countries too. I will expect that all organisations who receive funding from the Scottish Government will clearly align with and of course be held accountable to the principles. And this must include proactive measures to address the structural and systemic roots of racial inequality. And I say that fully cognizant of my own privileged position as a white minister sitting here in Scotland talking about structural racism. We all need to own the inequality and recognise our responsibilities in challenging that. And I'm really reflecting on that as minister myself today. We've had those principles translated into Chichewa and they're now available on our website as well. We'll also consider how to take forward the President's 2020 ask on increasing the existing number of partnerships between Malawi and Scotland, and how to do that in a way that best supports the 6 themes in the partnership agreement, which was agreed back in 2018. I look forward to this new evolving phase of our approach to international development and to deepening the relationship between our two countries. I'd also like to thank everyone for their time and commitment to engaging so constructively with the review process. I've been particularly pleased to have had such strong virtual engagement from Malawi, and I would like to personally thank the Malawi-Scotland Partnership for their role in supporting us with that, including convening a roundtable to enable me to meet with Malawian civil society as part of the review process. And if any of you would like to discuss the outcomes of the review or have any questions, I'm also going to be hosting an online roundtable event specifically for Malawi next week on the 17th of March, and my officials will share details of how to sign up to this event. Finally, I'd just like to say thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you today, albeit quite far away, but I hope that someday soon I will get the chance to visit Malawi and meet you all in person. I very much look forward to working with you and continuing to strengthen the relationship between Scotland and Malawi in the months and years ahead, and I hope you enjoy the rest of today's event. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister, for your remarks, specifically for reassuring Malawi that now we are getting into an era where Malawian institutions, SCOs, will be now able to apply independently for funding. This shows that the Scottish Government is now looking at us with confidence that we are able to implement programs, but most importantly, that we'll be able to take care of the resources, like our own minister has requested of us, that they would not allow any mediocre or probably misuse of the funds that have come from Scotland. Thank you very much for sparing your time to be with us. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand that our Honourable Minister would like to take leave of us. May I once again, Honourable Minister, thank you for sparing your time, coming to be with us. I know that probably you would have been in Zomba or in Mzuzu for the launch of the COVID vaccine, but I would like to thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as the minister is taking his leave, would like to show you the climate change song that the Malawi Young Leaders Climate Change Project commissioned Joe Kells to do, and he worked on it with in conjunction with the young leaders to come up with the lyrics, and if you look closely enough, you see the young leaders also participating in the video. Can we have the climate change song, please?
Mitengo isasinde tizikala ukondo kuti nyengo isasinde yelele tisamataye zinyalala paliponse zilipo njira zambiri mdzikoli zomwe tingagwiritse ntchito kupika osangoti kudula mitengo ya makala ndi chifukwa tonse tikulira ndi nyengo malo alipo ambiri mdzikoli amene mukoza kulima ulo kukhalapo osangoti kudula mitengo pakali minda kapena kudula mitengo mumange nyumba osataya zinyalala mumtsinje ulo mumsewu zimbafupikitsa madzi mumtsinje kenako mvula ikangogwa madzi kusefuka imakaononga manyumba ndi minda achinyamata iyakulu omwe tigwirane manja tichitepo kanthu kuti nyengo isasinde tizisamala mitengo kuti nyengo isasinde mama tizibyalaso mitengo kuti nyengo isasinde tizikala ukondo kuti nyengo isasinde yelele tisamataye zinyalala paliponse
I hope you all enjoyed that song. A link to that song will be shared in the chat box. Please watch it again, share it, and get the climate change message out there. Next, Craig, can we have the other Malawian song, please? Can we now have Neil, please? Neil, are you ready? Neil, are you ready?
I think looking at the participant list, Neil may have lost his connection temporarily.
Yeah, I see that. Oh, sorry, I kept talking to myself. I forgot if my mic was on mute. Would you like to start, David?
Yeah, absolutely, no problem at all. Honourable Ministers, MaSP leaders, MaSP members and friends, all protocols observed. My name is David Hope-Jones. I'm the Chief Executive of the Scotland-Malawi Partnership and really thrilled to be saying a few words this afternoon. What an inspiring afternoon, hearing from various different projects, seeing those videos and all of the dancing and singing as well. I did you a favour by turning off my camera so you couldn't see me dancing along there. Lots of energy. I've been asked to speak for about 10 minutes or so to say a little bit about the Scotland-Malawi Partnership. I want to focus on our, I suppose, reflections over the last 12 months, what we're working on now and maybe some of the exciting opportunities that are upcoming. I hope all of that threads together well with the theme of this afternoon's meeting of working together in global hardship. For those of you who don't know the Scotland-Malawi Partnership, we're the sister network of MaSP. We're entirely Scottish charity with its own Scottish board. We exist to coordinate, represent and support the great many links that Scotland has with Malawi. We are, like MaSP, core-funded by but independent to the Scottish Government, and very grateful to successive Scottish governments for their investment in that coordination and engagement with society. We're a membership network with over 1,200 members now, representing an estimated 109,000 Scots, investing £49 million worth of civic inputs to the bilateral relationship each year. It is a partnership because both sides contribute and both sides benefit. Estimates suggest that around 3 million Malawians benefit each year from these relationships, but so to over 250,000 Scots. My favourite, and I promise my last statistic and number, is that 44% of Scots can name a friend or family member with a connection to Malawi. So please be in no doubt as you go away from today, the warmth with which Scotland holds its friendship with Malawi. If I make some reflections over what's been a very, very strange 12 months. Next week, it's going to be exactly a year since myself and my colleagues left our offices in the city chambers in the heart of old Edinburgh. We thought it might be a month or two, and in some ways it's very sad looking back that we're still not back in the offices, and that it will be some time before we are. But of course, much more sad is the great many people in Malawi and in Scotland who have died over the last year. There have, through this tragedy and through these testing times, been some positives, and I think these have been alluded to already. The fact that through digital engagements like this, we're better able to bring together Scots and Malawians. In a usual year in Scotland, we might have 50 meetings, events with an average of maybe a dozen or 20 people taking part, perhaps just a handful of Malawians. But routinely over the last year, we've had over 100 organizations taking part, with the majority in most of those meetings coming from Malawi. So I feel in some ways at last the practicalities are catching up with our principles as a network that strives to be Malawi-led and Malawi-focused. Indeed, at our AGM in October, we were delighted to have both the President of Malawi and the First Minister of Scotland opening the meeting because it was a digital event. I recognise the practical challenges, particularly at the Malawi side, but also in rural Scotland, of connecting in this way with the costs of airtime, the challenges of bandwidth and the limitations of hardware. I don't want to understate the change and challenge there's been, nor the seriousness and sadness, but I do want to highlight what I think has been achieved over the last year and what are those opportunities going forwards. And in doing so, I'm very keen to thank and congratulate colleagues in MaSP and the members of MaSP for all of their input and support for what we've been doing in Scotland. Let me reflect on some of what we've been doing in the last year. And Jade, my colleague, I will kindly put some links in the chat box. So if I'm talking in anything of particular interest, please just click the link and you'll see to where you can find out more. COVID-19 has, of course, been our main focus over the last year, and we're delighted to have really been focusing on coordination of effort. We've hosted 13 major COVID coordination meetings over the last 12 months, often with up to 250 organizations attending, often at a ministerial level. Each of those meetings has its own webpage. You can watch the videos afterwards, see the notes, the presentations, and crucially, the actions that we've taken as a network. We've had a total attendance of almost 1,500, and 641 different organizations and key individuals had taken part in that coordination of effort. Over 400 of whom have given their feedback, 94% of whom have said that this coordination work has been excellent or very good, and 94% again have said that it's strengthened their links with Malawi. Other COVID work we've been focused on has been the dissemination of news about the COVID situation in Malawi through our bulletin and through our website. We've been supporting and raising awareness of over 21 different fundraising appeals, COVID Malawi fundraising appeals. And indeed, in direct response to a 25th of January meeting with the Minister of Health and a powerful testimony, personal testimony of Dr Matthews Mutambuka, former MaSP chair, the SNP and its members stood up to the challenge of oxygen supply in hospitals, launching a quick fundraising campaign which raised over £40,000, over 40 million kwacha in 2 weeks, all of which has been attributed and is in the process of supporting oxygen supply. We've also been lobbying for the equitable access to vaccine in Malawi. We've been agreeing principles of best practice in COVID response, and we've been sharing members' perspectives in Scotland and Malawi on the COVID crisis. A key aspiration for 2020, we made it our year of governance strengthening. And that was all about, firstly, what can we do, leading by example in strengthening our own governance within our organisation? Secondly, how do we strengthen our members in Scotland's governance? And thirdly, how do we strengthen governance more widely? We're pleased to have extended that programme to be the years of governance strengthening because of COVID delays and complications, and that will run through to the end of 2021. We've had good progress in the first phase, and by the end of this month, the Scotland-Malawi partnership will be entirely reconstituted with a new legal structure, better fitting our charitable purpose and a new constitution. In the coming weeks, we'll be announcing training for our members, and also I'm very keen to flag up an announcement forthcoming about a very major partnership with Malawi around governance strengthening, following the lead and the call from the government of Malawi. Minister Gilruth talked about the Scottish Government International Development Review, and we've been closely involved in that, and we applaud her government for the consultative approach that it's taken, and for our colleagues in MaSP in their support of facilitating Malawi input to it. There is a great deal that we support and welcome in what's been announced last week, not least the principle of Southern leadership, the focus on equalities, and a commitment to transparency and accountability. I wonder if I could highlight some of the key events that we have upcoming. And first and foremost, just next week, between the 15th and the 19th of March, we have our Digital Youth Festival that I really encourage people to take part in, particularly young people on the call today. There's all sorts of digital engagements across podcasts and webinars, Facebook Lives, Insta Lives, language and dance challenges. And all of this has been led by the young people of Scotland and Malawi. And again, thanks to MaSP for all of their support and leadership there. We have a major new podcast being launched in the coming weeks called the People to People podcast. It's run by two inspiring women, Chimzi Dori and Hazel Darwin Clements. I think Hazel's on the call today. And that's really exploring the themes of the bilateral relationship by listening to all of the key voices in Malawi and Scotland and celebrating and scrutinizing key aspects of that relationship. We also have a Build Back Better steering group that's looking at how do we respond to some of the themes that Minister Gilruth quite rightly flagged in her speech. And one of the priorities for me is how do we as a country in Scotland step up to the challenges that the President of Malawi, the Honourable Co-Patron of the Scotland-Malawi Partnership, set Scotland in his October speech. As a network, we're about listening to and being led by Malawian priorities. And there were three challenges he gave Scotland. Firstly, as Minister Gilruth said, to increase the number of Scots and Malawians involved from 300 to 500. Secondly, to have a return high-level conference in Scotland within 5 years. And thirdly, to use COP26, which I'll say more about in a moment, to hold the Scotland-Malawi relationship up to the world as an example of good practice of the global North and the global South coming together to fight climate change. In May, the Scottish Parliament has an election, and I'm working with all 5 of the major political parties taking part in that election to try and get those 3 challenges from the President of Malawi to Scotland into the manifestos of those parties, such that whoever wins that election, there will continue to be a strong commitment to Malawi. And I'm pleased to report that all party support is stronger now than ever before. In the summer, the David Livingstone Birthplace Centre in Blantyre, Scotland will reopen, and we've been quite involved in looking at the legacy of David Livingstone, recording quite a number of videos of Malawians and Scots and those from other countries he visited, reflecting on his legacy, good and bad. And again, we invite anyone that would like to be involved in that project to contact us. Black History Month in November, we look to do more on, as we did with Chilembwe Day, marking the key points in our shared history, both good and bad. And I suppose the final thing I want to touch on, because it's a really exciting thing, is what both ministers talked about, this COP26 conference happening in November in Glasgow, Scotland. It's the biggest event Scotland has ever hosted, and it is a key moment in the world with regards to the climate crisis. We're excited in Scotland to have that role, but crucially, we want to use our role hosting that meeting to be able to support and amplify our partners, especially in Malawi. So we have a Malawi at COP26 strategy about listening and supporting and amplifying those Malawian voices. We want, with the Lord Provost of Glasgow, who's an honorary co-president of the Scotland-Malawi Partnership, to host an event in Glasgow, which we hope the President of Malawi, if attending, is able to join, along with the First Minister of Scotland. We're also working to respond to the challenge that we've been sent from our partners in Malawi about how do we support an increased number of negotiators from Malawi to attend that conference in Glasgow in November. And I look forward to sharing more news about that shortly. In concluding, please be of no doubt how excited Scotland continues to be about our links with Malawi. The SNP and MaSP are 2 sides of the same coin. We are independent. We can decide what we look like. We can decide our own priorities, but we're part of the same fundamental whole. We're mutually supporting and we're mutually accountable. I want to put on record my congratulations to the Malawi-Scotland Partnership over the last year. Achieving the direct funding from the Scottish Government is a great success, and I think it has led the way for others to follow, something we very much welcome. I want to welcome and congratulate the new staff members at MaSP, particularly Dr Masangala, my counterpart in MaSP, but also Mtameli, who will be joining the fantastic team of Mapatso, Linda, Ruth, Chinsisi, Hendricks, and the brilliant interns of Andrew, Ivy, Precious, Kundwani, Christian, Ida, and Louis. It was a surprise in July of last year when Vera, now Honourable Kamtakula, was invited to join the cabinet of Malawi. It is, I think, all credit to the status and profile and credibility of MaSP, as well as a reflection of her professional success, reputation that she has built, but also her civic activism around the rerun presidential election. I know Honourable Kamtakula remains committed to the Malawi-Scotland relationship in cabinet and remains a great friend of Scotland. In closing, through these challenging and changing times, I think it's more important than ever that we remember what unites us and what makes us. And for me, that's two things. It's the belief that the people of our two countries can achieve amazing things. This idea of civic activism, of mobilizing hundreds, thousands of people across our country, churches, schools, hospitals, universities coming together for one national endeavor. And secondly, a belief in dignified partnership, not as donors at one end and recipients at the other, but as friends and equals, as partners and allies in mutual solidarity and mutual respect. Last night, I was giving an address to a group of Scottish teachers learning about the relationship, and I was talking about our wonderful partnership principles. And I ended with the proverb that many friends in Malawi have said in events like this in years gone by. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think nothing better captures the spirit of our friendship and our relationship. Thank you again for the opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you, David, for your remarks. It gives us encouragement that we have a sister organization like yours to work together. Indeed, if you want to go very far, let's go together. This is the spirit that we should get. Moderator, back to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. We were supposed to have Maggie Greer from Troca, but we seem to be having a bit of technical difficulties with that. So let me now take this time to invite the Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Dr Masangala, for the closing remarks.
Thank you so much, our moderator, Ms. Kadzua. Ladies and gentlemen, this marks the end of our symposium. But as we go home, we need to reflect on what has been said in this meeting. We need to share the best practices from the projects. We need to see how best we can integrate or mainstream COVID issues in our hear me? Yeah, we need to go back and hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry for that. We need to, I've already said we need to reflect, we need to synchronize and see how we are accountable for our actions. We need to be transparent and show transparency and accountability in the way we execute our activities. This symposium should ignite a debate between us. We've also heard about the principles that have been announced. How are we aligning ourselves to these principles? We'll come to that. We'll talk to each member on how we can get feedback from the team. At this juncture, let me declare the symposium closed. Those who want to remain to maybe to chat, to ask questions, you are free to do that. Thank you so much for participating in this symposium. We greatly appreciate. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those closing remarks. So this was all from everybody at MaSP. We hope you enjoyed the experience. Definitely different from how we usually do it, but this was the next best alternative. Wishing you a lovely afternoon. May I now invite Neil to just sign us off with a song.
Chama, amanenga sa, je vous sais ça pas de mon
pako pamaya ugacha mama angasa sesa pako pamaya magolo ali amoya mikila kutili lelo mama mwana wanze Hey.
Hi, Daddy.
Hi, Kika.
How are you, Dad?
I'm good. I think it's the connection's gone.
Connection? What? Ham. Is ham finished? And the ham?
There's no ham here.
Like, oh, I've used how much? I want to make it.
Oh no. Oh yeah. Hey, sorry. My computer decided to stop. I don't know if it's still me. He's still playing. I'm not really sure what's going on here. Are you all there still? Not sure if you're there, but here's a Scottish song just in case you are. In the chilly hours and minutes of uncertainty, I long to be in the warm home of your loving mind. To feel you all around would be the sweetest thing, it would make me sing. Oh, but I may as well try to catch the wind. Sundown, pale as the sky, I wanna hide a while behind your smile. Everywhere I look, your face I see. For me to love you now would be the sweetest thing, it would make me sing. Ah, but I may as well try to catch the wind. rain is hard, the leaves with tears. I want you near to feel my tears and help me leave all my blues behind. For standing in your heart is where I want to be and long to be. But I may as well try to catch but I may as well try to catch Thank you. Another song? Not sure. What about this one? Dafuna, tango wachiko, achola panda, rapeza kuri, so kambale, dingorina, mayo, dafuna, tango wachiko, achola panda, rapeza kuri. So kambale, dingori, my oh. Play this one from the beginning. And here's one for the road.